Hey, good morning, and a happy snow day. Big snow day in Washington, D.C., and welcome to this special winter edition, I guess, of the Bill Press Show. This Thursday morning, February 13, coming to you live, of course, on Free Speech TV and on our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/Tawker, TawkrTV, worldwide. From our nation's capital, where the weather people got it right yesterday for sure. It started snowing, as they said it would, about 7 o'clock last night. It snowed all night long. It is still snowing this morning and expected to continue throughout most of the day. Of course, the federal government is shut down, and that storm actually is not just Washington, D.C. It's gone all the way from Georgia, Texas, across to Georgia, and up the entire East Coast all the way to Maine. But we took the bobsled in this morning, so we are here to bring you the news of the day, including the fact that the Senate joined the House in approving an increase in the debt ceiling, a clean bill, no strings attached. They did so yesterday by a vote of 55 to 43, and of course, the president will sign that. And there are new numbers out on the Affordable Care Act that shows that indeed the website is fixed and people are signing up. 3.3 million people have signed up so far, and it's projected that at the end of March, they will be at 5 million signups, which is just a tad shy of the 6 million predicted. By the way, 27% of the 3.3 million signups are young people ages 18 to 34, which is exactly the demographic that the Affordable Care Act needs to work. So everything is working. Obamacare is not going away. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS and enjoy the show this morning.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids
you.
how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
On your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Winter storm has hit the East Coast as predicted. So we join our brothers and sisters in the Midwest who've been buried under snow for the last month or so. Hey, what do you say? Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday, February 13. Are you ready? Here we go, off on our big town hall of the morning, as we do every morning. 3 hours of news and fun, your conversations, our comments, our guests for the next 3 hours here on your local progressive talk radio station, on Free Speech TV, and on our video stream, TawkrTV, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Hey, when you're snowed in, and this is a snow day for much of the country, just sit back, turn on the radio, turn on the TV, and enjoy the conversation. Weigh
kind
in.
Of day.
That's kind of day, right? Do it at 866-55-PRESS. That's how your number to call us. Just get out your cell phone or whatever. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show, and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. We had the sled out this morning, made it in.
Yeah, man.
Through the actually we all went to the youth hostel last night here.
That's right.
On Capitol Hill.
That's right.
Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy. Hello, guys.
Good morning.
Alicia Cruz.
Didn't make it in.
Didn't quite make it in.
Couldn't make it in. Yeah.
She has the longest commute.
She has the longest commute. She also has a baby.
Yeah.
And
two babies.
Two babies. And so she had to be with them last night. And when she saw this, that we actually got snow.
Yeah. And so, and then Cyprian Bolding. Guy, he made it in too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From a block away.
Not bad.
Extra special quarters last night. But, it was predicted it was going to start at 7 o'clock last night. I was at a meeting at 6 o'clock. I left about 7:15. It was snowing. And it snowed all night long, snowing when we came in this morning. And what's the prediction now? It's going to keep going. So we had about what? I'd say 6 inches easy.
Well, it depends. I mean, there are places around here in town where we are. I mean, it's at least 6 inches. Areas not far from here got as many as 10 or 11. But yeah, I mean, I'd say we walked in and probably 6-7 inches of snow.
Right. And
so what happens next is
what happens next, right?
As it warms up slightly, that snow is going to turn into the classic wintry mix.
Oh, I hate it.
Which is the worst.
No, the worst.
But here's the thing: it's going to be wintry mix, but then later on today, we are going to get more snow.
Oh no! So it's going to
snow
warm up,
mix,
and then more snow on top of the mix.
Yeah,
which
it's just a huge storm.
Right,
and the storm is just sort of hanging out and blanketing the East Coast. And so, as the weather goes and gets warmer or colder, that weather either becomes rain or snow.
So we're shut down today and probably going to be shut down tomorrow.
D.C. is shut down today.
Yeah.
I mean, across the board, it's shut down.
I mean, what sounds like it may be shut down.
I would
again.
imagine it's going to be shut down tomorrow.
Yeah. We're not complaining. We're just telling you what's going on.
Damn it.
No, I love snow. I'd rather.
I do too. And you know what? This is good snow.
This is good snow.
It was really pretty
snow
out
like this. It's beautiful this morning.
Yeah.
Actually, absolutely. And the governors are dealing with it with the help of FEMA. At our briefing yesterday, yesterday was a normal work day, by the way, all the way through. As I said, even the meeting that I had scheduled with the White House Correspondents Association, we had a town hall meeting last night. I thought that they might cancel it. They held it, and everybody, they had a big turnout because it didn't start snowing, let's say, until about 7:15. So at our briefing yesterday, Jay Carney said FEMA has been called upon by states, and they've got people all over the place ready to help out.
FEMA has liaisons in the emergency operations centers of South Carolina, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Virginia, and has identified liaisons for other impacted states ready to deploy should they be requested.
He also mentioned Philadelphia yesterday, in addition to the ones that you just heard there. Meanwhile, governors, as I say, state to state, they are not going to be caught flat-footed this time. Pat McCrory, down in North Carolina, otherwise a total lame-brained jerk, but it looks like he knows he's got to take care of this snow.
Stay start. Don't put your stupid hat on at this point in time. Protect yourself, protect your family, protect your neighbors. Let's protect each other during this next 48 hours.
By the way, that's pretty good advice.
Don't
no
put
matter
your
what the
stupid hat on.
situation.
Yes.
Don't put your stupid hat on.
Right.
I only have smart hats, so it doesn't apply to me.
His problem is he puts his stupid hat on when it comes to dealing with voting rights and women's rights and working families and everything else that's important in North Carolina. And right around, right nearby here, both the state of Virginia and the state of Maryland declared emergencies 2 days before the storm hit, and Governor O'Malley said that it's going to be bad.
This is going to be a nasty, wet, icy event here in Maryland that will go on for 24 hours.
Yep, and he was right about that.
Yeah, I just took a peek outside right before the show, by the way, and so Pennsylvania Avenue, they've started to plow, and so that's looking a little bit better.
Cyprian and I walking in this morning, there were two plows going down Pennsylvania Avenue. Didn't see any plow
starting to clean up
on 7th or 8th Street yet.
Side streets, no.
But the main streets are trying to keep them clean. So let us know if you're out there snowbound or trying to make your way through what's going on throughout the morning. We'll be updating you on the weather. And in fact, the chief meteorologist, what a handful, mouthful rather, from the Washington Post will be joining us a little bit later, Jason Samenow. We'll also have reporters in from the Nation magazine and New York magazine, and Reid Epstein from Politico will be here if he makes it through the snow.
If he makes it.
As he may have to have a dog sled this morning.
He might have to.
Yeah. He'll be here as a friend of Bill. But first...
This is the Full Court Press.
A couple of other stories making news. Toyota is recalling 1.9 million of its Prius hybrid cars.
To turn your car in?
Because of a software fault that may cause the vehicle to slow down suddenly. This recall comes weeks after Toyota halted the sale of the same car model in the U.S. over problematic seat heaters. No accidents or injuries have been reported over the defect, Toyota reported. I have not turned mine in yet.
Is yours one of these ones?
No, I don't think it is.
Oh, okay.
I have to look to make sure, but I don't think it is. Derek Jeter announced yesterday he's going to retire after the 2014 season. The New York Yankees shortstop posted a lengthy message on Facebook, and he ended by saying, quote, "And the thing is, I cannot be more sure. I know in my heart the 2014 season will be my last year playing professional baseball." His final farewell tour begins April 1st.
How old is he?
I don't know.
Yeah.
He's no spring chicken.
Right.
He's been around for a while. But, baseball does this great thing when legends retire. They do a genuine farewell tour.
Yeah.
They go around to ballpark on the regular schedule, and they give them gifts, and they
every
say
time,
farewell.
everywhere
It's
they
very
go,
sweet.
right? Yeah,
It's
no,
cool.
they have a whole series of farewells, right?
Yeah.
And I think he's 39, so he's getting up
And
there.
then they'll end at the Yankee Stadium with a big, tribute.
Cool thing. And if you thought that Michael Sam had a tough time coming out to the public about being the first gay possible professional football player, we learned that it was a lot harder to come out to his father. He texted his dad the news last week, and his father did not take it well. He said that he had to leave a party that he was at and go to an Applebee's to have some drinks. His father, when interviewed later, says, "I'm old school. I'm a man and woman type of guy." So this is the kind of father that Michael Sam is dealing with, having to come out as a homosexual.
It surprises me that Michael Sam's father had no clue.
Yeah, there is that.
Because Michael Sam is not really, he was not openly gay, but he didn't hide it either,
Sure.
right? His friends knew, right? The
And you
people
also
he
know
hung-
your kids.
you know your kids and the people he hung out with, right?
Yeah.
Well, okay. Love your son, Father. Doesn't matter whether he's gay or straight. Hey, there's some good news yesterday from the administration about the Affordable Care Act. I think this is, first of all, it's good news for all Americans. It's certainly good news for President Obama. It is bad news for Republicans. Their whole thing this year, and that's part of the reason they went along with it, increasing the debt ceiling, we've talked about this, is that they want to get everything else out of the way. They don't want to talk about immigration. They don't want to have to talk about the debt ceiling. They don't want to have to talk about global warming. They just want to talk about Obamacare. And they are determined that Obamacare is going to be their ticket to ride in this year, 2014, that they're going to go into Senate races and win back the Senate on Obamacare, campaigning against Obamacare. We got to get rid of it. It's not working. It's a disaster. It's putting people out of work. Nobody is signing up. They think they're going to even not only hold on to the House, but increase their representation in the House and then build a strong base for 2016 and getting the White House back, all because of Obamacare and all making that their number one issue. Now, first of all, I'd like to remind them that they did try this in 2012. That was the heart of the Romney campaign. Remember, Romney's number one pledge was, on day one, I'm going to repeal Obamacare, which, of course, he could not do because the president cannot repeal a law. Congress has to do that. But let's not get picky here. At any rate, here's the problem with that Republican strategy. Obamacare is working. And we found out yesterday more and more it is working. Kathleen Sebelius in a conference call with reporters yesterday saying, okay, here's how many have signed up so far.
Through the end of January, nearly 3.3 million people signed up to get coverage for private insurance through the health insurance marketplace.
3.3 million so far, including 1.1 million in January. Now, that's about 1 million shy of where they thought they might be at this time, but it's a hell of a lot better than the way things were last October, right, when they rolled out the website and nobody could sign up, and everybody said, "Oh, this proves that it's never going to work. It's a disaster." They fixed the website, and now people are signing up. It's not only the number of people who signed up; it's the kind of people who have signed up. Again, Secretary Sebelius.
We're seeing a growing population of Americans who are young, healthy, and well covered.
Young, healthy, and well covered. 27% of those who signed up are between the ages of 18 and 34. Young and healthy, that's exactly, that is right on target. That's exactly the demographic that's needed to make sure you get enough healthy people in to pay the premiums so that the insurance companies can afford to take care of those who are older and who need more medication. Not only that, young people and women are signing up.
55% of Americans who have signed up thus far are women, who can no longer be charged more just because of their gender. Being a woman under the Affordable Care Act is no longer a pre-existing condition.
Do you hear that? 55% of those who signed up are women. And again, back to the Republican war on women. When they oppose Obamacare, it is another slap at women, another slam at women around this country. I think this is really great news. Let's talk about it. 866-55-PRESS. Now, maybe the best news of all is they predict that by the end of March, that's the deadline, remember, the end of March, there will be 5 million people plus signed up. And the Congressional Budget Office, which originally said we think that they'll sign up 7 million by the end of March, reduced that, and their current prediction is that 6 million by the end of March. So the way we're going to be just a little the administration will be just a little shy of what was projected, close to 6 million people by the end of March signing up for the Affordable Care Act. And on top of that, those who have signed up either to the state exchange or the federal exchange, on top of that, 3.3 million more Americans have Medicaid thanks to Obamacare. And that number would be a lot higher if it weren't for these 16 redneck Republican right-wing governors who won't allow Medicaid expansion in their states, even though the federal government pays 100% of the cost of any new Medicaid. So you've got 3.3 million plus 3.3 million, all because of Obamacare. This is really good news. Let's start off here. Let's, again, talk about 866-55-PRESS. Tell us what it means to you. Marcia is out in Dwight, North Dakota. Hey, Marcia, good morning.
Hi, glad you made it in today.
Yeah, thank you. You're probably used to this stuff. 6 inches for you guys is nothing.
Yeah, I kind of like it, though.
Yeah, so do we. Yeah, go ahead. What's up?
I just am kind of excited about what the Republicans are running on. They're trying to tell Americans that we don't work enough.
Yeah.
And to me, that'd make good sense to them.
Yeah, they're trying to tell us we don't work enough, right? Americans don't want health insurance. Americans don't want an increase in a minimum wage. And Americans don't deserve, those who've been out of work a long time, don't deserve an extension of unemployment benefits because otherwise they'll just sit home and drink beer and won't go look for a job. They don't have a very high opinion of average Americans, do they, Marcia?
No, they sure don't, but I hope they keep it up.
All right. Thanks, Marcia. Good to hear from you. Stay warm. 866-55-PRESS. 3.3 million signed up so far. I've been telling you this. Obamacare is working, and Obamacare ain't gone away. Let's talk about it Thursday morning.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech.
Tucson.
Aurora.
Fort Hood. Oak Creek.
Newtown.
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 How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad.
As a friend.
As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, here we go. We're talking about the new numbers on the Affordable Care Act. Looking good for the administration. More than 1.1 million people, as we told you, signed up for private insurance in the federal and state exchanges in January alone, bringing the total up now to 3.3 million, making the administration a lot closer to its goal. The way that breaks down, it's about 1.4 million in the state-run exchanges and 1.9 million in the federal exchange. And remember, that's kind of the reverse of the way it was when the original problems occurred with the launch of healthcare.gov. The more people were able to sign up in the states than in the federal exchange. Now that they've got the website fixed, it's just the opposite. So the federal exchange, which should outstrip the state exchanges, and in fact it's doing so. That's 3.3 million. And look at this. Again, 25%, it's almost 27%, are in the range of 18 to 34. 31% are 55 to 64%. 55 to 64 years old. I mean, that's still a pretty healthy age range and a pretty healthy chunk of the population. So it's a good demographic mix. There are good numbers. By the end of March, they're going to be up to 5.5 million, maybe, very close to that 6 million goal. Good news for Obamacare. Your call's coming up.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Thirty-four minutes after the hour now. Good news on the Affordable Care Act front. Tell us about it, 866-55-PRESS. You know what they're doing. The administration said in the beginning, we're not going to do this every day, once a month, in the middle of the month, just like they did up in Massachusetts when they adopted Romney Care. We'll tell you how many people have signed up. We're just not going to do it, dribble it out day by day. So February yesterday, Secretary of Health and Human Services, Kathleen Sebelius, on a conference call with reporters, let us know it was 3.3 million people total between the state and the federal exchanges, 1.4 in the state exchanges, 1.9 in the one federal exchange, and another 3.3 million people who have signed up on Medicaid. Great news. It proves they've got this system. They've got the problem with the website behind them, and now it's just getting the word out to get people to sign up, which is what OFA, Organizing for America, is doing. That's their sole mission these days. Have you signed up? What's it mean to you? What do you hear from your friends and neighbors and family? And again, almost 27% of those who signed up are young people between the ages of 18 and 34. Dave is calling us from Canton, Michigan. Hello, Dave.
Yes. Hello, Bill. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you for being there. Yes.
Yes. The reason I'm calling is, as most liberals, we want national health care.
Yes. Single payer.
Yes, we would. And what we never seem to hear is a program on how to improve or establish national health care. My proposal is eliminate the income tax on the very first $100,000 of income, replace it with a 15% national sales tax, use half of that, 7.5%, and that will go to national health care. You merge Medicare into the national health care, which I call NIT, National Health Investment Trust. And then the reason I'm saying this is they're planning to reform our income tax. That usually means a big tax increase on the poor and the middle class. And what we don't want to do is do that.
Right. Let me just say, Dave, look, it's a good plan for me. You ought to run for Congress on it. But there may be a more direct option these days, which is, because that might be tough to get through Congress, I'm all for it. You got my vote. But there's, let's say, another way of going is that Obamacare does allow states to adopt a single-payer system if they care to, if they vote to. So we could get to really nationalize public health through the Affordable Care Act, as long state by state by state. And Vermont, thanks to Bernie Sanders, is on track to becoming perhaps the very first state to have single payer. And once that happens, it's like Colorado and Washington State with pot. Once that happens and other states see how well it works, you can be damn sure that single payer will not be limited to just one state in the union. But in the meantime, Obamacare is the best we've got, and it's a good program, and it's going to help maybe some 30, 35 million Americans get health insurance, people who could never afford it before or could never have access to it before because they had a pre-existing condition. as Kathleen Sebelius said, sometimes a pre-existing condition was nothing more than being a woman and therefore treated differently under our private health insurance. Very, very important news yesterday on the Affordable Care Act. There was also some news on a couple of other fronts. President Obama with a big signing ceremony yesterday in the, East Room of the White House, where he was the day before with President Francois Hollande of France. Yesterday he was there to carry through with a pledge that he made in the State of the Union. Remember, he called on Congress to raise a minimum wage for all American workers who are working at that level, working a full-time job for $7.25 an hour or less, and still living in poverty, which is just not right. Just not right. As the president said many times, nobody who's working a full-time job should be living below the poverty level. And should have to live below the poverty level. At any rate, so he said, I want Congress to raise it for all workers. What I can do is this, and he called on business leaders to raise a minimum wage for people in their companies to do that on their own, like Costco has done, for example, like Walmart refuses to do, for example. And he said, I'm a CEO. I got a lot of people that work for me. So from now on, anybody who works for the federal government under contract, those contract employees, their minimum wage is going to go up to $10.10 an hour. He pledged to do that by executive order. Yesterday was the day when he finally did it, and he said, here's how much money this would put in people's pockets.
So over the past year, the failure of Congress to act was the equivalent of a $200 pay cut for these folks. For a typical minimum wage worker, that's a month worth of groceries, maybe 2 months worth of electricity.
That's what they're missing. That's what they will get under this new executive order that he signed, which sadly doesn't impact people who are already working for a federal contractor, but any future contracts for sure will be covered looking forward. And the president said, here are the kind of people we're talking about.
These are Americans who work full-time, often to support a family. And if the minimum wage had kept pace with our economic productivity, they'd already be getting paid well over $10 an hour.
Yep, and the president, so he signed that. It's the right thing to do, and glad the president doesn't. The real right thing to do would be for Congress to make it across the board for all American workers. Other big news yesterday, catching up, it's interesting because Congress doesn't do anything, but then with the threat of a snowstorm,
they get really cooking then, huh?
Yeah, both the House and the Senate said, "Oh, we got to get something done before the snow hits," and so maybe it's good that the snow hit today because the House voted on Tuesday to raise the debt ceiling so that we can pay our bills. And as we talked yesterday, they voted to do so, completely surrendered, the Republicans did, totally threw in the towel. They voted to raise the debt ceiling with no strings attached, a clean increase. Then it went over to the Senate. And the Senate voted yesterday, but first of all, a procedural vote, 67 to 31 to proceed with the debate yesterday and a vote. They did so, and the final passage was 55 to 43. All 53 Democrats and 2 independents voted for it. 43 Republicans, there were 2 Republicans missing somewhere, but 43 Republicans voted against it. So the final passage was a strict party line vote. Again, no Republican wanted to be seen voting for it, but enough Republicans voted to break the filibuster so that they were able to get the vote. Even Mitch McConnell and John Cornyn voted against the filibuster to break the filibuster so that they could go to a vote, and then they voted against it. Ted Cruz, of course, voted no on everything, right? So it was a busy day yesterday here in our nation's capital. compared to today.
Yeah.
When nobody's
Nothing's gonna happen.
Going to be a ghost town today for sure. All right, George Zornick joins us when we come back. He covers Washington for The Nation magazine. We'll catch up with him. And always, again, looking for your calls at 866-55-PRESS.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
For more than 18 months, the members of AFSCME 3299 have been working to secure a new contract with the University of California. With workplace injuries at UC skyrocketing and government fines related to safety deficiencies at UC hospitals skyrocketing, Local 3299's top priority has been safe staffing at the workplace.
We've been short of people for the last 5 years. They're stretching us thin, which the students are suffering, the faculty suffering, and the patients are suffering.
While UC administrators have granted these standards to other UC workers, they have refused to make similar accommodations for AFSCME represented workers who perform the most physically demanding labor at UC.
It takes a whole team to take care of the patient. It's not just the RN and it's not just the doctor. The nurses were able to win a great contract, and AFSCME workers, the patient care workers and service workers, they're part of the team and they deserve that same fair contract too.
We take pride into working for the university, and we feel like the university doesn't value the work that we do.
But the second-class treatment of AFSCME workers doesn't end at safety and staffing. On wages, benefits, and other issues, UC refuses to offer AFSCME 3299 members the same respect they afford their other workers.
I have 3 jobs because what the university pays me is just not enough to make a living for my family and myself.
99% of service workers in the UC system make so little money that they're eligible for at least some form of public assistance. At the same time, the number of executives in the UC system that have crossed over into making at least $250,000 a year has more than doubled since 2008.
The University of California has long been a beacon of hope and progress for those struggling for dignity and fairness. With such a proud history, it is disturbing to see the leadership of the university treat its lowest paid workers like second-class citizens.
All workers at the university deserve equal treatment.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we go. It's 13 minutes before the top of the hour on a Thursday morning, February 13. The Bill Press Show coming to you live from our nation's capital. And if you're just joining us, it is a snowbound nation's capital today. They predicted we were going to get anywhere from, it was a big range, like 2 inches to 12 inches, somewhere in between. And it is happening as we speak. Started snowing about 7:30 last night. And I'd say it's a good 6 to 8 inches so far out there. Still snowing, and that snow belt goes all the way from Georgia up to Maine. And, of course, our good friends in the Midwest, through Madison, Chicago, through Fargo, Detroit, and other parts of the Midwest have been buried under snow for the last couple of months. It seems nonstop. Washington pretty much shut down this week, but still some big issues floating around. George Zornick covers the nation for the nation's capital for The Nation magazine. Joins us on our newsline this morning. Hey, George, good to talk to you again.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I know recently have been writing. By the way, John Nichols was in yesterday for a whole hour. Don't know whether you've seen him since he's been in town, but
terrific. No, I haven't actually.
A good guy, and so we caught up with a couple of things. But one thing you've been writing about, we didn't talk to John about, was is Afghanistan. Are we really going to be able to get out of Afghanistan? That came up in the news conference between President Obama and Francois Hollande as well. Are we really going to be able to get out this year? And then what happens?
I really hope so. A lot of it depends on what you determine as getting out. Now the White House says that getting out means that they will declare combat operations over, but that they will sign a security agreement which will keep U.S. troops there until at least 2024, about 10,000 of them, and that these troops will still be allowed to do combat operations against things that the U.S. deemed as a terror threat. Now, in Afghanistan, you can apply terror threat to a wide variety of things. So most likely they would be doing semi-regular combat missions. So 10,000 troops in a country for 10 years doing combat missions, that's a war to most people.
That's a continuing war in Afghanistan, which would make it 20-year war instead of a 10-year war, right?
Right, and it's already the least popular war in U.S. history. It's been going on for 13 years. No one is really sure what the goal is. I mean, we went in saying we were going to overthrow the Taliban and root out Al-Qaeda, and that has been accomplished. In fact, it was probably accomplished within the first year that we were there. So there's a growing sentiment in Congress that Obama should come to them before he signs the security agreement and ask for a vote. It's not something he's legally required to do, but it's something they want him to do.
But isn't it also true that Hamid Karzai, the president of Afghanistan, has refused to sign the security agreement anyhow, right?
Yeah, that's right. He wants to wait until after a new president is elected. He's no longer able to run, and he doesn't want to, at least what he says is he doesn't want to foist this agreement on a new leader. And of course, he has other concerns about the drone strikes and the night raids that are happening. So whether it's signed on their end is one question, but there are people like Jeff Merkley, Democrat from Oregon, and Mike Lee, a Republican from Utah, who, want some input before this thing gets signed.
I can't believe that the American people would support another 10 years in Afghanistan. In fact, I know they would not. Right?
I would be shocked if Congress voted yes on that. I mean, the war is so deeply and broadly unpopular. When you talk to some of these senators, they say it's actually the thing that they hear about most when they go back home, because people are still reading about these casualties in the paper and saying, what are we doing there? What's going on?
We're talking with George Zornick from The Nation, thenation.com. George, also, most people have thrown in the towel and given up on immigration reform. You think it might still be possible that House Republicans might come to their senses this year?
I think now is the best time, the most likely time that could happen.
Really?
You're out. You hear Boehner and McConnell out there kind of throwing cold water on it, but that's sort of the dance that they have to do. They can't say, "Oh, yes, we'd love to do this." They're kind of playing to the conservative base, but at the same time, they are making, and particularly in the House, is making some subtle but real moves towards reform. And they kind of have to do it now. I feel like they're waiting until some of the Republican primaries are over for the midterm elections. So in other words, before some right-wing candidate can knock off someone for their immigration vote. But the party bosses they see the writing on the wall. They want to get it done. And they know that if it doesn't happen this year, you wait until 2015, all of a sudden you're throwing yourself into the presidential primaries, and then things get really polarized, really tricky. So I'm not sure if it's going to happen, but I know that the people at the top of the party want it to happen, and I would expect to see some kind of movement this year.
Yeah, and I guess it's not impossible in that, John Boehner has said there's not going to be any immigration reform legislation this year. Yeah, but he also said we're never going to raise the debt ceiling without getting something for it, right? We're never going to. We're going to have. We want something. We're not sure what it is, but we want something. Yeah. And so he totally flip-flopped on that. He could flip-flop on immigration, too. Right.
Sure, and you saw the debt ceiling pass with, majority of Democrats and a small number of Republicans. That could certainly be a template for immigration reform. And there may be some other games. There may be a path to citizenship that they call something else that may be semantic, and they'll say, oh, this is an amnesty. But in effect, it does give people a route, who are here and undocumented, a route to being citizens.
Well, I must admit, I had kind of given up on it this year, but you convinced me that that's good logic, good thinking, that it might play just the opposite of what people are saying today. George, thanks for getting up early for us this morning. Appreciate it, your time, and we always send people to thenation.com and join me as a subscriber. Thanks, George.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Racing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, in the next hour, we're going to be talking weather with Jason Samenow from the Washington Post to find out just how big and how bad it is. Peter?
A couple of numbers on the storm, and again, we're not going to know how much snow it's going to dump until it's finished, which might not be until later on today for some parts of the country. But just a couple of numbers on what's going on out there. First of all, 13 people have died as a result of the storm. Over 772 772,000 customers across 14 states are without power. 4,500 flights have been canceled today.
God, yeah, don't even
Washington, D.C. airports are completely shut down today.
Oh, is that
all
right?
All of them are shut down. Right now, anyway.
Right. Yeah. Wow. I'll tell you one thing. The members of Congress got out of town yesterday. At a time.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Hey, good morning, and a happy snow day. Big snow day in Washington, D.C., and welcome to this special winter edition, I guess, of the Bill Press Show. This Thursday morning, February 13, coming to you live, of course, on Free Speech TV and on our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/Tawker, TawkrTV, worldwide. From our nation's capital, where the weather people got it right yesterday for sure. It started snowing, as they said it would, about 7 o'clock last night. It snowed all night long. It is still snowing this morning and expected to continue throughout most of the day. Of course, the federal government is shut down, and that storm actually is not just Washington, D.C. It's gone all the way from Georgia, Texas, across to Georgia, and up the entire East Coast all the way to Maine. But we took the bobsled in this morning, so we are here to bring you the news of the day, including the fact that the Senate joined the House in approving an increase in the debt ceiling, a clean bill, no strings attached. They did so yesterday by a vote of 55 to 43, and of course, the president will sign that. And there are new numbers out on the Affordable Care Act that shows that indeed the website is fixed and people are signing up. 3.3 million people have signed up so far, and it's projected that at the end of March they will be at 5 million signups, which is just a tad shy of the 6 million predicted. By the way, 27% of the 3.3 million signups are young people ages 18 to 34, which is exactly the demographic that the Affordable Care Act needs to work. So everything is working. Obamacare is not going away. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS and enjoy the show this morning.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
Around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
How's the weather? Yeah, that's the big story. Weather. Snow through much of the eastern United States, and of course, continuing in the Midwest. Good morning, everybody. Great to see you this morning. Hope you are doing okay and surviving what they're calling the killer storm, all the way from Georgia, at least, maybe parts of Texas, all the way up to the state of Maine, and giving its share of that white stuff to Washington, D.C. as well. We're with you this morning from our nation's capital. It's the Bill Press Show, coming to you live on your local progressive talk radio station. Of course. Great to see you again this morning. We welcome all of our friends on Free Speech TV. You got the satellite dish, Direct TV, or the Dish Network. Thank you for being with us this morning. And on our video stream worldwide at TawkrTV, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Bouncing around the globe from our studio here on Capitol Hill with, 4/5 of our team here this morning. Alicia, she's got the longest commute of all. She's got the hardest time, and she wasn't able to make it in this morning. But the rest of us camped out overnight on Capitol Hill so we could be here this morning. Peter Rockburn and Elisa Murphy.
Hey.
At least they're hard at work.
We're here.
And we salute Alicia, even though she's not here. And Cyprian Bolding. What could we do without Cyprian?
There's no stopping Cyprian.
No, not at all.
There is no stopping Cyprian.
He's here.
He's here, damn it.
Great to see you all. And the governors, they've got their hands full these days, man. This is why they pay them the big bucks.
That's right.
Mayors and governors, right? Careers are made or destroyed.
Well put.
They can be the brightest and the best on every other issue, but careers are made or destroyed on snowstorms.
Yep.
And the response. We have seen that happen to so many mayors,
Yep.
right? Here in Washington and New York, Mayor Bloomberg did a pretty good job for 12 years. Was there 4 years too long, but at any rate, pretty good mayor. But he started out really rocky start when he was in Bermuda when the first snowstorm hit.
Yep. That's
a
problem.
And people never forgot it. So far, Bill de Blasio, who's had it's like 5 snowstorms since he took office
Trial by fire.
a month ago.
Yeah.
Man. But he's been making it at any rate. Governor Deal down in Georgia, he has been on top of this one because he blew his response to the first one. But Governor Deal yesterday saying they shut down, basically, they shut down Atlanta 2 days early, right? But Governor Deal is saying that if we have that clip, Governor Deal saying that the public has been responded
appropriately, and they are like us. They're looking for warm days to come as soon as possible.
Up in Connecticut, Governor Dan Malloy has said, we can handle this storm as long as it all doesn't come in the first right away, all at one time.
12 inches is a lot of snow, or 6 inches is a lot of snow if it occurs in a very short period of time. If it occurs over a 20-hour period of time or 22-hour period of time, it's not necessarily a lot of snow, at least for us to keep pace with on our local roads and our highways.
And also in New York City, it's interesting today because here in Washington, everything is shut down. All the schools are shut down all over the place, all over the suburbs and in town. And the federal government shut down, banks, everything shut down. But in New York City, they've kept the schools open, and the superintendent of schools up there says there's a very good reason why.
Many of our kids don't get a hot lunch and in many cases breakfast unless they go to school. So it's still a parent's decision whether they send the kids to school or not. My decision is where the kids are safest and the most taken care of, and the answer to that is in schools.
That's a good point, as long as they can get there.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot coming up. We're going to start out with Jason Samenow from the Washington Post. He's their chief meteorologist to tell us how big this storm is and what more we can expect. Then we'll be joined by Chris Smith from New York Magazine. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Okay, so I'm going to say right off the bat, there's a spoiler alert in this story.
Uh-oh.
So if you don't want to know the results
of the Olympics
that are going to be airing on tonight, you might want to turn the volume down for like 30 seconds. But this is a big enough story.
Nobody want to wait.
I agree. I agree. Even though I know I've been watching. So this is big enough news that we're gonna get it out there. So the men's slope style skiing event took place just a couple of hours ago, and gold, silver, and bronze were all won by the Americans.
Whoa.
Ooh. Josh Christensen got the gold, Gus Kenworthy got the silver, and Nick Gepper brought in the bronze. That is a clean sweep for the Americans in the slope style skiing.
That's huge.
Team USA, baby. That's how we do it.
USA.
That's right. All right.
USA.
Yeah, so patriotic with this stuff. We can now confirm, it has been confirmed this morning, that Comcast and Time Warner Cable are going to combine. Comcast is buying Time Warner Cable for $45.2 billion. It had been rumored that Charter Communications was going to try and buy Time Warner, but that is not the case. Comcast continues to be the big dog on the cable market.
Boy, they sure are.
That's gigantic.
Yeah.
That's gigantic.
Media consolidation.
Yep.
Not sure it's good for the consumer, but go ahead.
And maybe we should take this one to Judge Judy. Senator Rand Paul has filed a class action lawsuit against the Obama administration over the NSA's collection of data and data mining. Rand Paul, who's taken a stand on drones and a lot of other personal freedoms, says that this is, quote, a historic lawsuit against the Obama administration. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's not the first one, and there's several of them. ACLU and others have filed lawsuits that are already filing, already going
probably
through the legal
most high
process.
Profile, and certainly the only one from a sitting senator.
And the most political.
You nailed it.
All right, got it. Thank you, Peter. Yes, indeed, it's being called, as I said, the killer storm. How bad is it? How does it compare? And what more can we expect? Jason Samenow, weather editor for the Washington Post, joining us on our newsline this morning. Hello, Jason.
Good morning.
So, first of all, how big an area of the United States does this storm impact?
It's huge. Basically, we have winter storm warnings in effect from Georgia to Maine right now. So pretty much along the entire East Coast, north of Florida, there is winter weather, high-impact winter weather underway.
Where did this come from?
This is a low-pressure system which formed in the Gulf of Mexico. It's kind of your classic big East Coast storm. It forms in the Gulf, then it comes up the eastern seaboard, draws in moisture from the Atlantic, dumps it inland, and we had some cold air in place, some Arctic air leading into the storm, and that's what's led to all of the snow and ice in the south. So
this is not like the last storm that kind of started in the Midwest and then came across, right?
Nope. The storm formed in the Gulf. It did phase or merge with another weather disturbance zipping along the northern part of the U.S., but it's at its core a Gulf of Mexico weather system.
In the D.C. metropolitan area, what's the accumulation so far?
Okay, so right in the city, we're looking at 6 to 10 inches. Reagan National Airport, as of 7 o'clock, 6.4 inches. But if you get into northwest D.C., it's 10 or 11 inches. Then if you get out into the north and west suburbs, we're seeing some 14 and 15-inch total. So a big variation from the eastern suburbs of D.C. to the western suburbs right now.
And so how does this rank then in storms? I mean, I was here visiting from California in the blizzard of 1996, and I always compare everything to that. But is this like the biggest in the last couple of years or 4 years, or what are we?
Yeah, this would be the biggest since the snow began in winter of 2009-2010, when we had those huge storms, a couple of storms with more than 15 inches of snow. So this storm in D.C. isn't that bad, but it's the biggest since then, so it's about the biggest in 4 years here. Now, for some of our western areas where they've already gotten 14 or 15 inches, and they could get several inches more, this storm may rank right up there. If you get out to Leesburg and Frederick, some of our ex-burbs, so to speak.
Going up the coast, New York City, Boston, Philadelphia, getting more snow?
Yeah, moderate snowstorm for them. Obviously not a paralyzing, crippling storm, but significant, 4 to 8 inches in New York City and Boston. They're going to, like D.C., have some mixing issues with some warm air coming off the ocean, so they'll change over to sleet and rain and then maybe go back to snow as the storm pulls away.
All right, so are we nearing the end of it, or are we kind of going to more? What's ahead in the next 10 or 12 hours?
Well, here in D.C., we've got sort of a wintry mess of alternating between rain, sleet, and snow for the next several hours. Then we may have the precipitation, a second wave come in and turn back to snow late afternoon into the evening, possibly with a few more inches, and then we'll wind down later tonight. Good news is that it's going to settle down briefly Friday, but then we may see a little bit more snow Friday night and Saturday. If we get beyond this long weekend, this holiday weekend coming up, the weather pattern is going to shift along the mid-Atlantic and northeast to a warmer than normal pattern. So we can look forward to that.
All right, so then we'll be back up in the 60s again, right? I mean, that's been the pattern. That has been the pattern for this winter, hasn't it?
Well, it has been. We've seen a lot of volatility and shifts. Obviously, we've averaged on the colder side of things with some of those extreme Arctic air intrusions. But yeah, we've had a lot of spikes too. So more volatility ahead.
Right. Now, of course, let's ask about that again. We're talking with Jason Samenow, weather editor for the Washington Post, and you can follow their reports, of course, at WashingtonPost.com. A lot of people say, well, my God, what is this talk about global warming? Look how cold it's been and how much snow we've had this winter. Does this prove there is no such thing as global warming?
No, you have to remember the contiguous U.S. is just about a few percent of the total surface area of the Earth. So you have to look at what the temperatures are averaged across the whole Earth, and not just in 1 year, over periods of decades. And when we do that, we see a pronounced warming trend in the long range. So.
And some of the stories that I've seen recently, I mean, like we may have had 10 days or 11 days or whatever of below freezing temperatures, right? And yet 20 or 30 years ago, there might have been 30 or 40 days in a row.
Yeah, that's exactly right. If you look at some of the weather records, for example, here in D.C., we had much colder winters in the late 1800s, early 1900s. This year may only rank in the top 40 or 50 coldest winters since the late 1800s. So this is nothing that unusual. Yes, slightly colder than average, but nothing that extreme in the grand scheme of things.
I saw a headline last week reported somewhere from the Anchorage Daily News, Anchorage, Alaska, and the headline was, "Record warmth confused plants."
That's right. Well, they had their warmest January on record in Alaska, I believe, and they've had avalanches, flooding, and rain while we've been getting the cold and snow here in the U.S. So that often happens when the jet stream takes a big jog up to Alaska. Then it bends around and it dips over the U.S., and that drives the Arctic air southward.
Right. Well, Jason, it's good. I mean, here I think, it seems that everybody's kind of, they're ready for this, right? They knew it was coming. They've got all the plows and everything ready. The airports, of course, are closed. All the Washington airports, I've heard, right? But yes. I think we're going to handle this storm pretty well.
Yep, everything's shut down. I think that's a good thing. You want to want people commuting in this morning, especially out in our western zones where it's snowing very heavily still. So, I think we've handled this pretty well, and we'll get through it.
And you guys were right on target. I got to tell you, 7 o'clock last night is sort of when it was predicted to start. And when I walked out of a meeting at 7:15, the first flurries were starting. So you got it. This is a busy time for you, I know. And so thank you so much for taking time for us this morning.
Yeah, you bet. Take care.
All right. Jason Samenow from the Washington Post, WashingtonPost.com. Wherever you happen to be, you're probably been listening to us through our range, particularly in the Midwest or the Eastern United States. You are experiencing the snow and the cold weather. Give us a call. Let us know how it's going for you. 866-55-PRESS, 866-55-77-377. What are the conditions where you are? How are they dealing with it? What's the impact? And what are you going to do with your snow day? Hey, we're working. 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
Enough.
Enough. Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend.
As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage. But after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Yeah, tell us what's going on with the weather where you happen to be. 866-55-PRESS, record stretch of sub-zero temperatures and the snow accumulation in the Midwest, particularly in the Chicago area. All of our good friends out on WCPT. And now this big killer storm stretching, as Jason Samenow just told us, all the way from Georgia all the way up to Maine, much of our broadcast area, and including right here where we are in Washington, D.C., where we've had a good 6 to 8 inches right around the studio here, tromping through that to get to the studio this morning. Tell us what's going on in your neck of the woods at 866-55-PRESS. Meanwhile, in Washington, yesterday was a full work day because the snow didn't start until last evening. With reporters, Secretary of Health and Human Services Kathleen Sebelius held a conference call to report on the latest numbers on sign-ups for Obamacare. And there is some good news. Remember, everything fell apart, of course, in October when the website was launched. But since then, they have fixed it. Now people are going to the website and they are signing up. She gave the new totals yesterday.
Through the end of January, nearly 3.3 million people signed up to get coverage for private insurance through the health insurance marketplace.
3.3 million. That's 1.4 through the state exchanges, 1.9 through the federal exchange, that now fixed, repaired federal worksite. That is remarkable given particularly that 1.1 million people signed up in January alone. And here's what's even more. Here's some even better good news. Who are the people that are signing up?
We're seeing a growing population of Americans who are young, healthy, and well covered.
Young, healthy, and well covered. Almost 27% of the new signups are people between the ages of 18 and 34. People who think, yeah, why do I need health insurance? I'm not going to get sick. I mean, I don't need it. I'm healthy. I'm healthy as right in my prime. Yeah, well, something could happen to you in your prime, or you also one of these days are going to get older and going to need health insurance. And time to sign up is now. And it's also important to get those young people in, so that the system has enough money to pay for those who need more health insurance and need more help from their insurance plan. So 27% is right on target. Here's another strong indication of the kind of people who are signing up from Kathleen Sebelius.
55% of Americans who have signed up thus far are women, who can no longer be charged more just because of their gender. Being a woman under the Affordable Care Act is no longer a pre-existing condition.
Bingo. 55% of the people signing up are women. This is really huge. Proves a couple of things. By the way, so you add the 3.3 million who signed up on the websites to 3.3 million who have now received Medicaid thanks to Obamacare. That's 6.6 million Americans who now have health insurance who never had it before. That is huge. They predict that by the end of March, over 5 million will have signed up to the state and federal exchanges. So Obamacare, folks, is working, and it's here to stay.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot. I want you to just push the area.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
At 33 minutes after the hour of the Bill Press Show, booming to you live on your local progressive talk radio station. And we also thank those joining us on Free Speech TV and nationwide, and on our video stream worldwide at youtube.com/TawkrTV. We're coming to you live from our nation's capital, snowed in. Everything's shut down today except us. And we're brought to you today by the International Association of Sheet Metal, Air, Rail, and Transportation Workers, the good men and women, add them all together, of the SMART Union under President Joseph Nigro, giving a fair day's work for a fair day's pay, you bet. And you can find out more about their good work at smart-union.org. Well, liberals around the planet, particularly here in this country, very, very excited by their new hero and role model, Bill de Blasio, from the new mayor of New York City. Chris Smith is a contributing editor to New York Magazine following Mr. de Blasio's remarkable campaign and the first, 5 weeks or so of his reign as mayor. Chris joining us on our newsline this morning. How are you, Chris? Good morning.
I'm great. I'm on a street corner in Brooklyn where a guy just went jogging past me in shorts.
What? Wait, isn't it? I thought it was snowing in New York.
Yeah, there's also a guy sliding sideways through the intersection in his car. So it's kind of an interesting day here.
Kind of a New York day, right? Yeah. Now, first of all, how many snowstorms has de Blasio had to deal with in the last month? He must be tired of the snow by now, right?
Yeah, no kidding. This is the third substantial one in about 5 weeks. And, if you want to put a political angle on it, one of the big questions or criticisms or unknowns about de Blasio coming in was whether he could handle the blocking and tackling of everyday government.
Yeah.
And the snow, in a sort of unpleasant way, has given him a chance to show what he could do. And he's been out there at press conferences and sanitation department garages commanding the snow plows, and generally to high marks with some slip-ups now and then.
Yeah, right. We all remember Mayor Bloomberg not doing so well with his first snowstorm. So that was it was a real test. And the question, I must say, as a big liberal myself, de Blasio has become this iconic figure, right? Already, he ran, as you've pointed out in a recent piece, as far left as you could get in a Democratic primary, and won, right? And now mayor of the nation's largest city. What impact does this have on the rest of the country, Chris?
Yeah, that's the fun question that I tried to tackle in the column this week. De Blasio is as much egg as he is chicken. Certainly, as you well know, there have been things building, sparked in large part by the financial collapse in 2008 and the rise of Occupy Wall Street and things like the election of Senator Elizabeth Warren. And de Blasio is certainly part of that and capitalized on that, but being mayor of New York City gives you a new platform, and mayors all over the country, governors in some ways, are looking to see if he can really follow through on things like universal pre-K and rebalancing the city budget in favor of progressive causes. You've seen it already, I think, most dramatically in the Senate races here in 2014. You've got a lot of Democratic candidates adopting the message of income inequality, and that'll be a real test of just how far, not necessarily de Blasio himself, but his themes and his issues play all over the country.
Yeah, you hear this phrase, income inequality. President Obama talks about it, right? You hear more and more candidates talking about it. And again, I think they look at de Blasio and say, hey, you can run on this and win.
Sure, and you know very well that in politics, if something works, people imitate it.
Sure. Yeah.
And how much of it is ideology and how much is campaign strategy is something we're going to see. But playing it out a little further down the road, it's going to be very interesting for Hillary Clinton, who at this point, should she run in 2016, appears to have enormous advantages. But, I talked to a lot of progressives, a lot of people in and around the Democratic Party who are very wary of her, and, either assume there'll be a challenge from the left in the primaries, or are just going to try to move her more in the direction of talking about progressive issues.
Well, yeah, of course, a lot. Yeah, there's so many things to comment on there. One is Bill and Hillary Clinton were never known as the liberals or the progressives that Bill de Blasio is, right? They've never been that far left. And yet there they were at his installation ceremony as mayor, or whatever you call it, right?
Sure.
To sort of identify with him. Right?
Sure.
And the other thing is there are people, of course, on the left talking about a challenge to Hillary. Bernie Sanders is talking about it, thinking about it. People are trying to get Elizabeth Warren to run because they're afraid, that Hillary will be too much of a centrist if she runs.
Exactly, and Brian Schweitzer is out there, very much sounding like he wants to mount a run, and there are folks in progressive circles who are curious, interested in him. Yes, the Clintons are very savvy, and as much as within the Democratic Party, Hillary's considered an establishment centrist figure, on the other side, on the Republican side, they still consider her a borderline communist. So it's all relative.
Chris Smith is our guest. He's a columnist for New York, contributing editor also to New York Magazine. You can follow him on Twitter at Chris Smith, New York Mag. Now, Chris, does de Blasio, is he going to take this? How far will he take this helping? Are there any plans? Are they talking about would he actually go out or plan to go out and campaign for other progressives or liberals around the country?
He's very conscious right now of devoting as much energy and attention to his day job as possible.
Which is probably
the mayor
smart
for
thing
only
to
5-6 weeks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the man's career, a lot of it was spent as an operative in campaigns and administrations. And he knows that he increases his leverage both here and around the country or in Democratic circles by becoming an endorser, a validator, a campaigner for people. Right now, there doesn't seem to be any great interest in having him out on the road in the Senate races. Mm-hmm. But also remember that he worked, for Hillary in her Senate campaign here. And whether he becomes, a part of her campaign in 2016, or he becomes a much more valuable figure if Hillary doesn't run, and people like Andrew Cuomo get into the mix, then de Blasio is a significant figure.
Now, as a lifelong liberal and progressive, I've been disappointed. I think most of us have disappointed so many times, where we elect Democrats. And our expectations are very high, and then they get in and they feel they have to go to the middle. And this is one of my big criticisms of Barack Obama. With de Blasio, any sign that he's going to trim his sails now that he's in office, or is he still staying true to his progressive, political philosophy?
Yeah, very much so. At this point, he's been completely consistent. He gave his big first budget presentation yesterday, and it involved shifting large sums of money from priorities Michael Bloomberg had as mayor to things that de Blasio and folks on the left generally care about, whether you're talking about public housing or AIDS.
Yeah. Following through on that stuff then, huh?
Yeah, and he's pushing very, very hard to get a tax increase on the wealthy here in New York to fund expanded pre-kindergarten schools. That's got to go through the state legislature in Albany, and that's a very heavy lift, especially because Cuomo and the upstate Republicans are opposed to it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what is it? What's the backstory, if you will, of his relationship with Cuomo? When he went up to Albany, the two of them looked like they were buddy-buddy, but they're really not, are they?
On a human level, and there still is a human level in politics, that they are genuinely simpatico, and they have a history together going back to de Blasio working for Cuomo at HUD. But as people on both sides of the equation have said to me, that's something important to remember, that the governor still feels like that de Blasio is a staffer in some ways. And part of this is a genuine philosophical disagreement about raising taxes, and part of it is the governor asserting, the fact that he's in charge in many ways here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they both want to do the same thing. It's just a matter of how they get there, right, and how they pay for it. Yeah. So, well, it's fascinating to watch, and it's great to read you and your take on it too, Chris. Thank you so much for interrupting your own jogging plans this morning. Right?
Thanks for having me, Bill.
All right, Chris Smith, contributing editor for New York Magazine. At again, NYMag, NewYorkMag.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
For more than 18 months, the members of AFSCME 3299 have been working to secure a new contract with the University of California. With workplace injuries at UC skyrocketing and government fines related to safety deficiencies at UC hospitals skyrocketing, Local 3299's top priority has been safe staffing at the workplace.
We've been short of people for the last 5 years.
They're stretching us thin, which the students are suffering, the faculty suffering, and the patients are suffering.
While UC administrators have granted these standards to other UC workers, they have refused to make similar accommodations for AFSCME represented workers who perform the most physically demanding labor at UC.
It takes a whole team to take care of the patient. It's not just the RN and it's not just the doctor. The nurses were able to win a great contract, and AFSCME workers, the patient care workers and service workers, they're part of the team and they deserve that same fair contract too.
We take pride into working for the university, and we feel like the university doesn't value the work that we do.
But the second-class treatment of AFSCME workers doesn't end at safety and staffing. On wages, benefits, and other issues, UC refuses to offer AFSCME 3299 members the same respect they afford their other workers.
I have 3 jobs because what the university pays me is just not enough to make a living for my family and myself.
99% of service workers in the UC system make so little money that they're eligible for at least some form of public assistance. At the same time, the number of executives in the UC system that have crossed over into making at least $250,000 a year has more than doubled since 2008.
The University of California has long been a beacon of hope and progress for those struggling for dignity and fairness. With such a proud history, it is disturbing to see the leadership of the university treat its lowest paid workers like second-class citizens.
All workers at the university deserve equal treatment.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go, 13 minutes now before the top of the hour on this Thursday, February 13. Good to see you today, folks. I hope you're managing to stay on top of the big snowstorm here. We've got some 6 to 8 inches here in Washington, D.C. At least that was the case when we arrived about 3 hours ago here in the studio. And it's still snowing, so it's probably a little deeper than that right now. Wherever you happen to be, give us a call at 866-55-PRESS in the next hour. Reid Epstein will be here as a friend to Bill from Politico. He lives close enough in the neighborhood that he can take the dog sled in.
And he's bringing a special guest, I think.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, very good. And then we'll be joined by Ramsey Cox, who is a reporter for The Hill, to talk about a big vote yesterday on the debt ceiling. Meanwhile, President Obama, as shut down as everything is today in Washington, D.C., yesterday was a regular work day. It didn't start snowing until about 7:30 last night. And at the White House, we had our briefing with Jay Carney and then trooped up to the East Room for the president's signing ceremony. You remember that during his State of the Union, President Obama said it's very important that Congress raise the minimum wage for all American workers. Without waiting for them to do so, he called on CEOs around the country, even if that's just their own little small business or own little sub shop or whatever, to raise the minimum wage on their own for their own workers, as many companies have done. Particularly, we mentioned, and the president often mentions, Costco. And then the president said, look, I'm a CEO. A lot of people work for the federal government through contracts. And so I'm going to set the example. I'm going to sign my own executive order for any future federal contracts. Anybody who works for those contractors will get the minimum $10.10 an hour. Yesterday, he signed it, and he said, here is why this is important.
So over the past year, the failure of Congress to act was the equivalent of a $200 pay cut for these folks. For a typical minimum wage worker, that's a month worth of groceries, maybe 2 months worth of electricity.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. A lot of money in people's pockets. A lot of additional money in people's pockets that'll come in. And remember, that'll come in as a result of raising the minimum wage to $10.10 an hour. And remember, the real tragedy is, and what's just outrageous about the present minimum wage at $7.25 an hour, is that there's somebody could be working at that level, full-time job, and still be living below the rate of poverty here in this country. Working full-time, doing what they ought to be doing, and yet living in poverty. It is just unacceptable. The president said, here are the kind of people we're talking about.
These are Americans who work full-time, often to support a family, and if the minimum wage had kept pace with our economic productivity, they'd already be getting paid well over $10 an hour.
Yeah, and that's why one would hope that Congress would not just raise the minimum wage, but get rid of this need to do it by an act of Congress every year or every 2 years or whatever, and just have it automatically raised to keep up with the cost of living. And finally, the president said, the bottom line is this is just the right thing to do.
It would lift millions of Americans out of poverty immediately. It would help millions more work their way out of poverty without requiring a single dollar in new taxes or spending. It's the right thing to do.
You can hear the applause there from good friends of ours, a lot of labor leaders in the East Room with the White House yesterday. And while we're talking about working men and women and unions, very, very, very important effort going underway in Tennessee as we speak. Started yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Auto workers down in Chattanooga, Tennessee at the VW plant get to choose whether or not to form a union. And boy, anybody listening, we certainly hope that you do. We certainly hope these workers do. This is a very unusual situation. VW, the company in this case, is supporting the effort to form a union because they've got a union in every other single plant that they have anywhere in the world, and they have learned that working together with the unions and forming these work councils means that they have happier workers, they've got more dedicated workers, more loyal workers, more efficient, more effective workers working through these work councils. So VW is really showing the way, and what's disgusting down here, though the company is for it, The union, of course, is for it. Labor leaders are for it. Most of the workers are for it. It's the Republican politicians in Tennessee who've actually come out. There are 1,570 people employed at this plant, not to mention all those people who provide them services and food trucks and all that kind of stuff. So you've got a big economic impact here. And the Republican legislators in Tennessee have said that if they form a union at VW, they will take away any state grants or any state tax privileges or whatever that VW enjoys by putting that plant in Tennessee. They're just so stupid. They would cut off their nose to spite their face, as they say, these Republican legislators. So we got to ignore their political pressure. And by the way, Senator Bob Corker has been leading the pack. It's not just the state legislators, but the Republican senator. They are dead wrong. This unionization of that plant would be good for the auto industry, good for VW, good for the workers there, good for the people of Tennessee. And let's just hope it happens. Go, Union brothers and sisters, go in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
This is the Bill Press Show.
In the early 20th century, the war to end all wars didn't end war at all. It stoked the fires of change. A traumatized world was ripe for change. The world was ready for modernism. Modernists wanted to forget history, or at least reinterpret it. More than just a style, modernism applied to virtually all forms of creative expression. Innovative artists like Picasso, Escher, Dali, they all started looking at their world differently. Other artists tried painting light itself. These were the Impressionists. Surrealists went a bit further. We had entered the age of the isms: Cubism, Symbolism, Futurism, Constructivism. All these new modern ways of looking at the world blew people away. When it came to architecture, modernists were intrigued by emerging technology. Concrete, glass and steel featured heavily in their buildings. Modernists believed that they could design a better society. Ornamental indulgence was considered a frivolous waste of effort. They thought function should always dictate form, and that mankind's intelligence, creativity and capability for radical thinking should be celebrated. Take the Russian inventor Georgy Krutikov. He suggested an idea for a city held aloft by electrical currents. This at a time when there was barely enough wattage to keep the lights on. Not everything they designed was a resounding success. But you could argue modernism was the single most influential movement of the 20th century. From house music to housewares, tables and chairs to graphic design, all have been created by the aesthetics and ideas of modernism.
Well, here we go. 2 hours is never enough to cover all the news of the day, especially on a big day like this, the big snow day in Washington, D.C. We go on to hour number 3. We lose you on Free Speech TV, but come on over to the video stream at youtube.com/Tawker, TawkrTV. Reid Epstein joins us for the entire hour as a friend of Bill. Reid Epstein covers the White House for Politico. And then Ramsey Cox from The Hill will be here to talk about the big debt ceiling vote and all the politics behind it in the Senate yesterday. Hour number 3. Stay tuned.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, you got it. It is Thursday, February 13, and we're rolling along here with the Bill Press Show. Normally at this time, I give you the president's schedule for the day. There were only 2 items on the president's schedule to begin with today. getting the briefing with the vice president at 11 o'clock this morning, and then a press briefing with Jay Carney. Actually, that's not part of the president's schedule, but our schedule for the White House reporters briefing at 12:45. You can bet that both of those events have been canceled for today. The government has been shut down. So the president has a snow day. The first daughters have a snow day. The first ladies have a snow day. Maybe they'll just go sledding on the South Lawn. Who knows? But Washington is shut down. We'll be back with Reid Epstein from Politico. It's a friend of Bill.
This is the Bill Press Show. broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, they said it was going to snow today, and it is. Yes, indeed. 6 to 8 inches so far here in Washington, D.C., but we have managed, thanks to the dog sled, to make it through this morning. And we're here, as always, with our morning mix of snow, sleet, rain, and news, and your calls and your comments. It's the Bill Press Show, booming out to you nationwide from our studio on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., coming to you live on your local progressive talk radio station, and coming to you live around the planet on our video stream at TawkrTV, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. A day like this, we knew it was going to be really tough to get anybody through the snow, so we reached out to our friends who are not only know what they're doing and really good on the on the news of the day, but also live nearby. And Reid Epstein fits both categories. He's here from Politico.
It's
Hello,
a low
Reid.
bar when you're looking for people within 6 blocks.
Hello, neighbor.
Yes.
How you doing? That's right. The guy that runs the coffee shop downstairs wasn't in yet this morning. Then we got to try to get the guy from the pizza place next door.
Right. He
couldn't make it either.
We'll get
so.
into a discussion of the Ward 6 City Council race a little bit.
Yes, that's right. Our first topic today, who are you supporting for Ward 6 in Washington, D.C.? You're very much a member of the team this morning with Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy. Hello, guys.
Good morning.
We all camped out on the hill last night. Of course, I live on the hill.
Yeah, I camped out on the hill, too.
Yeah, that's right. You did, too. So we could all be here this morning. Cyprian Balding is here keeping us looking good on that video cam. Cyprian, who also made the sacrifice to spend a night on the hill. So he knew what a hellish commute it would be this morning. Yeah. Alicia Cruz, who lives way up beyond Baltimore, she didn't make it. Yeah,
she didn't make it in.
Right. And by the way, I'm glad to know she's was not on those roads this morning.
I agree. And they closed the MARC train, so they did.
Oh wow!
Oh
so
my!
No trains between Washington. No commuter trains between Washington and Baltimore today.
We're stuck here.
Oh, there it is. I imagine Amtrak will be shut down too, huh? No?
They were on limited service. I don't know if they totally shut down.
I mean, how close to shut down is Amtrak normally?
No, come on. Amtrak's a damn good system.
But I just saw the George Washington Parkway shut down.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you can't drive on
And that's your route home.
Yeah.
Well, guess
what? Oh, my
what?
God. I'm stuck.
Yeah, and all the regional airports are shut. So we're snowed in. We're locked in, babe.
Escape from D.C.
Yes, exactly. It's a fight to the death.
Well, it's just there's all kinds of stuff you got to be ready for. There's a snowstorm, the ice storm, and if you're down in Tennessee or Kentucky rather, you got to be ready for the sinkholes. Here it is in Bowling Green, Kentucky. There's such a thing. It's called the National Corvette Museum.
I thought that Joe Biden would come and rescue the National Corvette Museum from these sinkholes.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
Yeah, you would think so. Well, Here's the guy, the director of it, describing how bad it was.
It's about 25 or 30 feet deep. It's about 40 feet across. There's 8 cars that have fallen into the sinkhole.
Man, I'm going to tell you, 8 Corvettes. He says 8 cars. 8 Corvettes in the sinkhole.
That should be the new unit of measurement for how big a sinkhole is. How many Corvettes can you fit into it?
It sort of looked like the aftermath of a Jerry Bruckheimer movie.
Well, don't you think you would know something about how stable the ground is before you would build a museum on it?
Well, that's the thing with sinkholes, though, isn't it? You don't know.
I mean, you see this I think you see this in Florida, right?
Yeah,
where the ground is not terribly stable, and people have built on it where they've plowed over the swamp to build houses, and you get enough rain, and poof.
I know. It just opens up. Here's what they lost, he says.
Of the 8 cars, 6 of them were owned by the museum that had been donated to the museum by private individuals, and 2 of them were owned by General Motors.
How do you think they'll be getting them back? What do they do? They just cover them up, right? It becomes a graveyard.
They'll have like a burial ground for dead Corvettes.
Yeah. It'll be the National Corvette graveyard, no longer the National Corvette Museum.
Right.
All right, 11 minutes after the hour. Reid's here for the whole hour as a friend of Bill, and we'll be joined by Ramsey Cox from The Hill at the half hour. But first, Peter.
This is the Full Court Press.
Yes, indeed. Toyota is recalling 1.9 million of its top-selling Prius hybrid cars because of a software fault that may cause the vehicle to slow down suddenly. I guess that's bad when you're driving and your car just starts to slow down.
Well, this is a new thing, right? They slow down if they see like some hazard in the road.
Right.
But they're slowing down just
out of nowhere. Yeah. The recall comes weeks after Toyota halted the sale on some other of their car models in the U.S. because of problematic seat heaters. No accidents or injuries have been reported over the defect yet. 1.9 million recalled.
And this is weather when your seat heater has to be working.
I know, man. Yeah, we can't afford that. We can't afford to have that happen. Derek Jeter yesterday announced he's going to retire after the 2014 baseball season. The New York Yankees shortstop posted a message on Facebook, and he ended by saying, quote, "And the thing is, I could not be more sure. I know it in my heart. The 2014 season will be my last year playing professional baseball," end quote. His final farewell tour begins April 1st. When baseball kicks back up again.
Hanging it up, huh?
Yeah.
Cheater.
Yeah, that's it. And the Cheetah Hunt is the name. It's not the name of a strip club. It's the name of a roller coaster in Tampa, Florida at Busch Gardens. Yesterday, 30 passengers got stuck on this roller coaster. It goes up to as high as
upside down,
102 feet above the theme park. It goes up 102 feet, and they got stuck upside down. They had to call in the fire crews to come in, harness them in, and get them all out. But yeah.
Oh my
Think about that
gosh.
next time.
Imagine.
That's a real thrill ride.
Being stuck in Tampa for a half hour.
Yeah, thank you. Right. Also, I wouldn't have got stuck on that roller coaster. I would never gotten on it in the first place. Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Reid, big doings at the White House this week. You and I were there for the news conference with François Hollande, but they really rolled out he got the full treatment, right, from Monticello to the big welcome on the South Lawn. What's that all about?
And the state dinner with Stephen Colbert at the head table.
How about that? Yes.
It seemed like they went to great lengths, particularly during the dinner, to make it not look awkward, right? They had François Hollande sitting between the president and the first lady. They sort of had Michelle off to the side during their official picture, so it didn't look too uncomfortable that Monsieur Hollande didn't bring a date, since, as we know, his sort of personal domestic situation kind of blew up a little bit about 6 weeks ago when the French press caught him sneaking out on his long-term girlfriend, who had been sort of the unofficial First Lady of France, to meet with an actress
who had replaced his longer-term girlfriend and the mother of his children.
And the previous Socialist Party candidate for French president, Ségolène Royal. And so it was a big to-do in France for a while, and because of that, he didn't bring either woman with him for the state dinner, and it was the first time in almost 40 years that there had been a state dinner at the White House in which the honored guest didn't have a significant other.
Right.
So there was a lot of shuffling at the White House. They had to reprint the invitations. They had to figure out the seating charts at the last moment to figure out how to make this not look a little too awkward.
Right. But, watching the two of them, as you and I did together, I kept flashing back to, at the beginning, the build-up to the war in Iraq, when the French were not going along with George Bush's insistence that Iraq was a threat to the Western world and we had to invade. And that's the time when a lot of people broke their bottles of French wine, and we renamed French fries and the whole thing. The two of them yesterday or the other day just agreed on just about everything.
They did, and it was interesting to listen to sort of the language that they used. President Obama talking about the U.S. and France having a close partnership, and the two countries being closer than ever. Hollande talked about himself and President Obama having a close partnership.
Yeah.
Really, President Obama was using this to sort of reaffirm his foreign policy credentials. Hollande was using it to affirm his personal credentials with Obama, to help him with a French public that is really down on him. His approval ratings are much, much lower than Obama's are here, closer to what Congress's approval ratings are. And Obama, of course, is very popular across Europe, and especially in France. And Hollande was doing everything but give him a big hug on stage, to the point where one of the questions from the French press to Obama was, has France eclipsed England as your best friend in Europe?
That was a great question, right?
The French reporters, you never quite know in these bilateral press conferences what kind of questions you're going to get from the foreign press, and the French reporters really brought their A game on Tuesday.
No, they did. That was a very good question, I thought, and lightened it up a little bit too. And then the second French reporter who said to Hollande, how can you go out to the West Coast and meet with these business leaders? People, you're a socialist.
You could tell Obama was thrilled that somebody in the White House was being called a socialist, and it wasn't
him. All right. Or some people, the first time there have been two socialist presidents, in the White House at the same time. But on your point, the French journalists that I spoke to, they were all saying that Hollande is just French people just don't like him, right?
Right.
He is just as low as you can get.
If you think Obama is dead meat, you should talk to the French about Hollande.
Yeah, exactly. No, so that was big time. And then the president. Now, okay, but we're on the foreign policy front a little bit. So the president is flying out to California tomorrow to meet with King Abdullah of
who's
Jordan.
Actually in Washington all week.
Exactly. So why is he going to California? I didn't know that until Julie Pace, at the briefing yesterday or the day before, raised that question. Why is he going to California to meet with Abdullah when Abdullah's in Washington this week and already met with Joe Biden?
And he went to the State Department and talked to people there.
Yeah.
Jay Carney's answer to this yesterday was about 200 words. It seemed like 200-word explanation to say that he wants to play golf. And that the First Lady and the daughters are out of town on vacation. The president wants to get out of town himself. He sort of added a trip stop in Northern California to go.
He's going to Fresno to examine the drought conditions, but that was added after they had already announced that they were going to Rancho Mirage to meet with King Abdullah.
Right. And it's. The president has been to Rancho Mirage to this
Annenberg estate.
To this estate before. He went there to see the Chinese president last year. He played golf then. The expectation is that he's going to play some golf this weekend. It's 80 degrees there. It's hard to blame him too much for going to California, but it is not. It is pretty transparent, sort of the reason he's going out there, because the weather sucks in Washington, and we're going to be buried under 6 to 10 inches of snow, and he can go there and play golf two or three times, and not perhaps have a little bit more time with King Abdullah, although it seems not terribly likely.
I was talking with one of our colleagues at the White House last night. If you look ahead, the president, I don't remember all of these, and I don't have my notes here, but we know he has trips scheduled to. He's going to Belgium, the Netherlands, Rome to see the Pope, and then going to Saudi Arabia.
Another trip to Italy, to Asia.
Has another trip to Asia. It was announced at the news conference we were just talking about that he's going to France in June for the 69th anniversary. He's packing a lot of, and there's another trip that I'm forgetting about, but he's packing a lot of foreign travel in.
He's going
this year.
He's going to Mexico.
That's
later
right.
This month.
Mexico
for the Three Amigos Summit.
Yeah, right. So I mean, is this what presidents do in their second year? They just get all the mileage out of Air Force One they can.
Presidents tend to focus on foreign policy more in their second term than their first term. We know from ample evidence that voters don't care that much won't care as much about foreign policy as they do relative to the economy, a whole list of other domestic concerns. And so when presidents don't have to worry about getting elected again is when they focus on foreign policy. It tends to be a lot of legacy issues involved. And frankly, the president doesn't have much of a legislative agenda this year.
Mm-hmm.
He was pretty open about it during the State of the Union and since, that he's going to be doing a lot of by executive order. So there's not much reason for him to sit around and try to browbeat Congress into passing things when he hasn't proposed much beyond immigration reform, and that they're leaving Congress to do whatever they're going to do anyway. And so he doesn't want to sit around doing nothing.
Right.
So he's going to go and try to pursue U.S. interests abroad. He's going to go see the Pope. And certainly the Pope visit is important because it helps with the president's inequality messages.
Yeah.
It helps him with Catholics who have been fairly skeptical of him so far.
So it's sort of like he said in the State of the Union, I've got a phone. No, I've got a pen and I have a phone and I'm going to use them. Now he's also saying, and I've got a plane.
And a plane.
And I'm going to use that too.
And it's a pretty nice plane.
Damn nice plane. Reid Epstein covers the White House for Politico. Here in studio with us at 866-55-PRESS. Join the conversation. President Obama and his foreign travel. When we come back, the president had a pretty big victory this week with the lifting of the debt ceiling and a big signing ceremony yesterday on the minimum wage. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show. This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go, 26 minutes after the hour. On this Thursday morning, February 13, Reid Epstein here from Politico, who has a new gig at Politico, a new podcast starting.
So it's already up. We've been doing it for a few weeks. It's called The Scrum. You can find You can find it at politico.com/podcast. It's also on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud if you search for Politico Podcast. This week, it'll be up later today. We talked with our Deputy White House Editor, Deputy Congress Editor, and Byron Tao, the author of Political Influence, about the week in politics, the snow, of course. We have a regular feature about where is Hillary Clinton this week.
Good.
And so it's about 20, 25 minutes or so. It's good to download if you're going running, or if you're listen to it in the car on your commute to work, back and forth to work, or today if you're snowed in on the East Coast.
Sure, there you go.
Stick it on your iPod and listen to what's going on.
And tell our listeners and viewers what Scrum means.
A scrum in sort of journalistic ease is when you have sort of someone has 10 or 15 or however many cameras and microphones in their face and is sort of taking questions one after another from the press. In our instance, it's a little friendlier on the podcast.
But some people may not know that where the word comes from.
It's sort of an insight. The podcast is very conversational, and it's if you want to hear political reporters talk about sort of what's really going on in Washington during the week, it's a good podcast to have. You can subscribe on iTunes, and then it'll pop into your iTunes every week.
And we'll help out by putting up a link on our website. You can reach the Scrum with Reid Epstein. We'll be back with Ramsey Cox from The Hill.
Show. Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
On Thursday, February 13, 33 minutes after the hour now here. This is the Bill Press Show. I'm Bill Press. We're coming to you live from our nation's capital. Our studio on Capitol Hill, Washington, is totally shut down. It's still snowing here. We've had 6 to 8 inches so far. More expected during the day today, and then maybe more overnight tonight. We're coming to you live from our nation's capital and brought to you by today. The American Federation of Teachers are good men and women. Teachers across the country making a difference every day in the classroom, and the members of the AFT under President Randy Weingarten. Check out their good work at aft.org. Reid Epstein is here for the hour as a friend of Bill. He lives close enough he could make it in through the snow. The dog sled arrived on time. We sent it over there for you.
That's right.
Uber has changed from their limos to dog sleds this morning. Good to see you, Reid. Thanks for coming in. Well, I was just checking. CNN is going all out on this storm. They have called it's the massive storm, the catastrophic storm, and the killer storm, all adjectives I've seen so far.
Has it been a killer storm yet? Do we know?
Yeah, there were some 10 or 13 people who've lost their lives in this storm. It stretches all the way from Georgia up to the state of Maine, and the Congress is shut down today, but Democrats are on their retreat on the Eastern Shore. But before they left town, the House and the Senate actually got some work done this week. Ramsey Cox covers the Senate for The Hill, and she joins us on our newsline this morning. Ramsey, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Fine. Good to have you with us. So the big deal was the debt ceiling increase. Let's start, first of all, in the House. For the last 3 years, John Boehner has said we will not ever vote to increase the debt ceiling unless there are, cuts in spending on the other side. We want something for it, right? What happened this year?
Well, this year he didn't have the votes within his own party to get anything passed. So he realized he needed the Democrats to get anything done, and Democrats demanded a clean debt ceiling increase. So he caved. So
they weren't going to shut down the government again, Reid, I guess, huh?
Well, I know in talking to Republican leadership types in both the House and the Senate, and the House especially, they've said that the only way that they would lose the majority to Democrats in the November election is if there's a debt default. And so Boehner's people know that, and so that's the only, they're not willing to push that again like they did in 2011. That's why you've seen the last 3 times this has come up, Boehner has sort of rattled the sabers a little bit, but then before things got too close to a default date, eventually capitulated and put through a clean debt ceiling increase.
But Ramsey, even in the end, not many Republicans in the House voted for this, right?
Right. There were very few, and it was mostly leadership, actually. And so, just like on the Senate side, too, it was mostly leadership that had to buck up and vote for it in order to avoid a political disaster, basically.
Now, in the Senate, it was a little different. Just checking here, yeah. So in the Senate, they did both procedural vote and a vote on passage. The procedural vote to go ahead required, they had to break the filibuster first. They did so. It was 67 to 31. My understanding was that Mitch McConnell didn't want to have to filibuster the debt ceiling.
Yeah, Senator Ted Cruz put his party, or some members of his party at least, in a really tough spot by forcing a cloture motion on the vote. And so that's what requires 60 votes in order to move on to final passage. So no Republican voted for final passage, actually, in the Senate, but 12 voted to end debate. And the reason that they really only needed 5, but some of those in the Republican Party needed to be convinced to vote, and that's why the Republican leadership stepped up and voted with them as well. That was a requirement from some members. So yes, McConnell faces a very tough primary race right now, and so that vote's definitely going to be used against him.
You've got a little.
We got some news in from
here.
the White House that Ramsey, that Vice President Biden is going to skip the House Democratic retreat today because of the inclement weather the White House is just in the last couple of minutes alerting members of the press that Biden will not go. We'll see. President Obama is scheduled to go tomorrow.
Before he goes to California?
He's going to the Eastern Shore first on his way to California tomorrow.
Well, that's around not exactly the direct.
No, but if you have Marine One to get you back and forth to the Eastern Shore, it makes it a lot
get you to the Eastern Shore and then up to Andrews, where that was what they would do, right?
Yes.
So the Democrats, just while we're on that tangent, I want to come back to the debt ceiling. But the Democratic members of Congress, they had their retreat scheduled for Cambridge, Maryland, Ramsey, starting yesterday.
Started last night.
Starting last night. I'm surprised they went ahead with it. So now they're all snowbound in Cambridge, Maryland, I guess, right?
Yeah, hopefully they're all cozy. I think Joe Biden wasn't the
I think
only
you can count on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but some other Democrats had skipped it too, was my understanding, because of the snowstorm. They wanted to make sure that they were back home in their districts before the snowstorm hit, since they have next week off.
Right, and Biden was scheduled to go today, and he will not be going.
Perhaps he'll Skype in.
Oh, by the way, which just shows you this is a serious storm, you know?
Well, I'm sure that Biden was also going to chopper across the bay there, and the amount of snow that's coming down probably makes it difficult to get the helicopters up. And certainly when it's foggy or when it's raining too much, they don't chopper from the White House to Andrews. If the weather is lousy, they motorcade, and so this probably I suspect that the reason is that that the Secret Service or the Marines that run the helicopter shut it down.
Yeah. I'm sure of that. All right, back to this vote in the Senate. What does this mean in terms of the rest of the legislative agenda this year? I mean, Ramsey, you can read it kind of and read. You can read it sort of two ways, right? Well, they got together on a mini budget deal. They got together on the farm bill. Now they've gotten together in a bipartisan way, for the most part, on the debt ceiling, or at least Republicans got out of the way and let Democrats do it. So does this bode for maybe some cooperation on other things down the road, like immigration reform?
Well, some Democrats are hoping that and saying that that's what they're hoping this means. But I think in a year where there's a re-election cycle, it's very unlikely that anything else really gets done this year. I think most of these votes were necessary votes, and now that they're out of the way, people will start to go into full campaign mode, even though it's early still. I just doubt that anything major is going to get done anymore.
Right.
Next on the Senate docket is a veterans bill, and so that's, Republicans and Democrats will fight about how to pay for that, but so nothing might end up getting done on it. But that's what's next for the Senate. So nothing major.
Do you agree with that?
That's
assessment?
really the difference between things like the debt limit bill, the fiscal cliff bill that came up earlier, and something like immigration, is that there's no calendar-based urgency to pass immigration reform. Talk to the immigration advocates. They're trying to create that because at this point, they know that they're not going to get enough Republicans to support them to compel Boehner to put this forward. And they look at what happened on the debt limit, where it passed with 28 Republicans and the rest Democrats. An immigration reform could pass the House. An immigration reform bill could pass the House like that, but Boehner's never going to put it forward unless there is, sort of the sword of Damocles over his head if he doesn't. And they have been trying to build that sort of public support, and it's hard because there's just not enough Republicans who have districts with a substantial Latino vote to force them into doing something.
Well, the other theory that I've heard about this debt ceiling vote is that the reason Republicans did it and surrendered completely on it without getting anything for it was they wanted to get it out of the way so they could just focus on Obamacare. That's what they want to focus on in 2014, run on that and win on Obamacare. Does that make sense, Ramsey?
That is what Mitch McConnell said after the vote, that he didn't want to switch focus. Yeah, he didn't want to switch focus from Obamacare, and he thought that Cruz forcing that vote was kind of taking them off path message-wise. So, yeah, that's definitely going to be what they're talking about the whole time. Yeah.
Well, and it's no accident that the debt limit was extended to March 2015 when Republicans think that they'll be in control of the House and the Senate and can write themselves a much better deal than what they could get out of the divided Congress.
All right, so they want to focus on Obamacare, run against Obamacare, and numbers came out from the Secretary of HHS yesterday that the latest signups for Obamacare, 3.3 million people, plus 3.3 million, another 3.2 maybe, who have signed up, who have now covered by Medicaid, who were not covered before, and they're at this level. They're projected to reach over 5 million by the end of March, where the projected goal was 6 million.
7 million.
Well, then CBO cut it back to 6.
Initially, it was 7, and then it went
cut
to
it back
6,
to
and
6.
now
Right now, the goal is 6. Right, and so they say they're going to have 5 million. Whatever. That's pretty close for government work, isn't it?
It's not bad. The problem is, while they need 6 million or whatever it is to make the system solvent and to have enough people in it that it can work as a sort of an insurance actuarial table.
Yeah.
The image and the sort of what people think of Obamacare is really hardened a long time ago after the rollout was such a mess in October and November. And that's sort of the bigger problem, is that people's opinions on things harden relatively quickly when they see something as a mess like this was.
Ramsey, is there still a hope in the Senate or in the House that they're going to be able to repeal Obamacare, or are they starting to recognize, look, there are too many people signed up now, it's not going away?
Well, I think, as we mentioned earlier, Republicans want to use it as a political tool either way. I don't think there is a chance that the Senate will ever repeal it, at least as long as it's in Democrats' hands, and therefore it can't be repealed. But I think that Republicans are going to continue to push it. Their latest argument with that 5 million number is that most of those people already had insurance, but now they've been forced to sign up because their insurance didn't meet the mandate criteria before. So they're going to find something to argue that it's not working properly or it's not doing what the president said, no matter what.
I think you could be sure of that. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Ramsey, enjoy your snow day. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. Okay?
No,
Great.
thank you. It was a pleasure to be with you.
The Hill, thehill.com. Reid Epstein here, continuing as a friend of Bill. We'll be right back. And you are always welcome to join the conversation on any of the topics we've touched about, whether it's the minimum wage or the debt ceiling or the rapprochement with France or our snow day, 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show. This is the Bill Press Show.
Whoa, let's have a microphone here. On a snow day, on a Thursday, February 13, the Bill Press Show, live from a nation's capital that has been shut down. The federal government is shut down. The commuter train, the MARC train, is shut down. Every one of our airports is shut down. The vice president's trip over to join the House Democrats, who made it out of town last night in time to start their retreat in Cambridge, Maryland. I mean, they could be stuck in Cambridge, Maryland for the next week.
It's worse places to be stuck. It's pretty nice there.
It is. At that hotel is nice at Cambridge, Maryland.
Right on the bay.
Right on the. So therefore, there they are on the Eastern Shore. You know, they got plenty of food. The heat's on, and so they're. Don't have to worry about them.
The crabs aren't in season, but I'm sure they have a good supply flown in from somewhere.
They do, probably Louisiana right these days. At any rate, but we're still here, and look forward to hearing from you, always at 866-55-PRESS. Reid Epstein, White House reporter for Politico, here is a friend of Bill this hour. Interesting, the president got slammed yesterday with a lawsuit by Rand Paul for a United States senator to sue the president of the United States over what?
Over the NSA tactics. It was sort of
which Paul has spoken out against.
Paul has spoken out against. He's been it's certainly not out of character for him to do this. It's essentially a campaign tactic for him. He's used it to drum up support across the various Rand Paul websites that are sort of campaign websites without being campaign websites, to build his mail list. And supporter list across the country. This is something that he can use. He can use to sort of gin up the sort of name recognition and grassroots support that somebody who is running for president, and he's not somebody who makes any secret out of the fact that he's running for president, would do at this point. It's a smart move for him. It was interesting that he had former Virginia Attorney General Ken Cuccinelli at his side. Yeah. Who's somebody who has some experience and had like some moderate amounts of success suing the federal government when he was the Attorney General of Virginia before he lost the governor's race to Terry McAuliffe last fall. It was interesting. It was really I think he came out and spoke at a state GOP dinner, but it was the first real public appearance for him since he lost the election.
Right. So Cuccinelli's his attorney in this, basically. You know, what's also interesting is that this, from what I think Rand Paul is absolutely right on with his views about NSA. They also happen to be the same views as Bernie Sanders. So this same lawsuit could have been brought by Bernie Sanders.
And Ron Wyden and Mark Udall. It's interesting that the NSA has really become an issue that has united sort of the far ends of the right and the left, and sort of they have different tactics and how to go about it. You've sort of seen Udall and Wyden sort of try to trap administration officials into questions, and Sanders too at congressional hearings where they've asked if members of Congress have been spied on, and you get sort of tiptoeing around the answers without saying explicitly one way or the other, which basically tells you what the answer is. Rand Paul, on the other hand, is using it as a campaign device for his 2016 efforts. Yeah,
I'm waiting for the moment, Reid. I think it'll be a long wait when the president finally says, maybe I was wrong about NSA.
I don't think you're going to see that while he's in the White House. Something maybe for a memoir, a post-presidential memoir. But it's hard. President Obama has really been a hawk on this kind of stuff. Totally. And if you look at what he said when he was running for president in 2007 and 2008, it's very different from the way he's conducted himself. And it's either because he has sees the daily intelligence briefings and gets freaked out by them and decides to take every action necessary to protect the country, or there's been sort of a legitimate change of heart now that he's in control of the levers of power, one way or the other.
We've got to leave it there. Reid, thanks so much for coming in today. We're glad you made it through the snow here to the studio. We just hope like hell that it hasn't snowed so much that you can't make it back home.
We'll have to, I'll have to call my dog sled.
Yeah, enjoy your snow day. I'll be back with today's parting shot.
This is the Bill Press Show. The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
As we wrap up, some good numbers and good news about Obamacare yesterday. HHS reporting 3.3 million people have signed up so far, 1.1 million in January alone. And 27% of those people who have signed up are young people between the ages of 18 and 34. 55% of the people who have signed up are women. And by the end of March, there will be over 5 million people signed up for Obamacare. That just proves, folks, as we've been saying all along, now that they have the website fixed, Obamacare is working and Obamacare is here to stay. Republicans had better find another issue to run on in 2014. Have a good snow day. See you back here tomorrow.
Bill Press Show.